The Steve Dangle Podcast with your hosts, Steve Dangle, Adam Wilde, and Jesse Blake.
Let's go!
Steve wearing our brand new Dangle Navy snapback today. He's our model, our very sexy model. And I have to say, Steve, it must be nice to wear a hat that fits your head. I can't imagine.
Yes. So if you're worried about getting one of our Dangle Navy hats because you're worried it's not going to be big enough, well, it fits me. Fits me.
I actually specifically, I think I asked Jesse, I'm like, can we get ones that are big enough for my head? And he's like, we can get ones that they offer.
Whatever the biggest size the manufacturer makes is what.
So if you're a big-headed person, you're wondering, hey, they've got their own clothes. I'm sure they could find one to fit Adam's head. No.
Yeah.
You should try that one.
The loosest setting. That's second loosest. Actually, this is what it should be on.
Is it Velcro or is it actual snapback?
No, it's an actual snapback.
Yeah.
Can you see? Okay, so yeah, we'll try it. But usually with those snapbacks, I'm on like the last clasp, maybe.
Yeah.
And I'm still getting a headache. So
a headache from a snapback? Jesus.
Oh yeah, I get headaches from hats. Yeah.
Just paint it on. Just shave your head and paint it on. That's
honestly, I for sure should. So I am broadcasting from a cottage today. So hallelujah. And apparently it is actually Friday. So that's
TGIW, boys. Thank God it's Wednesday.
We didn't get into because in my hurry last episode, we missed one of the biggest pieces of news, and this does happen from time to time. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins re-signing with the Edmonton Oilers, and obviously there were people like, "What the hell? Why didn't you talk about it?" You're right, that's my fault, but it did give me the opportunity to kind of dive a little bit deeper on this one. And Oilers Nation did a killer breakdown about what this contract means. So you see the top line on it, 8 years, $41 million, and you think that's pretty good. He's making less money. He was making 6 before, and now it's 5.125. But I don't know if you guys have had the chance to actually kind of look deeper on this. He gave up money, yes, but he also is pretty much locked in for the next 8 years, no matter where he plays. So he did get obviously a no trade. But beyond that, this contract is essentially buyout proof. And, he'll be 36, 38 when this is done.
Yeah, you don't want to hear that term there, Oilers fans, because the last time I heard that, it was David Clarkson. So
yeah. So here's how it kind of breaks down according to Pierre LeBrun. So the first year, this coming, $5 million salary, that escalates to 5.25 the next year, and then 6.25 in 23-24 and 24-25. And then 25-26, it's a $4 million salary with a $2 million signing bonus. 26-27, $2.25 million salary with a $2.5 million signing bonus. And 27-28, that's we're already talking about near 2030 here. $22.5 million salary, $1.25 million signing bonus. We're going to come back to the signing bonuses in a second. Mm-hmm. And a $3.75 million salary to end it in 28-29.
Damn.
Crazy.
Damn.
Crazy. That's the equivalent of the start of the David Clarkson contract up until last season's end. That's 8 years. Right? Like that's a long, long time.
I am incapable of looking at the Toronto Maple Leafs rationally because I'm a fan of them. But one thing I think I've discovered throughout this playoff run with Sportsnet is I think I can look at other teams rationally because I have no dog in the fight and I don't care. Oilers fans are like their heads are on fire right now. They're running around and just bashing into walls because of this 8-year contract that, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is good. And I'd say he took a haircut in terms of cap hit, but like that's going to be a nightmare by the end of it. Mm-hmm. And also the Duncan Keith stuff, which I guess we'll get into later.
We will.
Oilers fans, I'm here to tell you, I don't hate either move. It obviously with Keith, it depends on a wide variety of factors, but with Nugent-Hopkins, you know how Dave Notice famously said, "I'm not worried about years 5, 6, and 7." With
in this
David
case,
Clarkson.
the Oilers shouldn't be.
No, well, you're maximizing Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl's prime.
Mm-hmm.
That's what every one of your moves should be about. No, every one of your moves should be about winning. Yeah. No, they go hand in hand. You're maximizing Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl does that. And now, like, will Ryan Nugent-Hopkins be at least a $5.125 million player for the next 3 years? Yeah. I'd put faith in that. I think he had a down year, a little bit of a down year. He'll be totally fine. The longer this deal goes, the tougher it'll get. And that's what the no move clause is for. So he can choose where he's traded to. Come on, guys. Like, the no move clause means I get to pick. That's what it means. It almost never means no.
Yeah. Give me a list of 3 teams, basically.
Yeah. And, then we're not going to get any value. Well, you're trying to trade him, so he doesn't have any anyway. Right? The whole reason, if he had any value, you'd want to keep him. Like, we've seen this movie 1,000 times. So by the time Nuge's contract is in the back half, you'll have bigger fish to fry anyway.
Yeah, it seems it's a good contract for the first 3 years and a bad contract for the last 5 years. That's the way I look at it.
It's more than half.
Yeah, and I feel like if it's 5-3, then it's a bad deal. Should it not be looked at it that way?
Well, it depends. If they win the cup,
then every deal is a great deal. Then everything you have ever done is a great thing if you win the Stanley Cup.
Yes.
And the deal itself is actually one of the rarest deals in the post-lockout era, because since the lockout, 50 contracts of this length have been signed. I think it's either 7 or 8 years. There's been 50 contracts signed of this length, and it is the second lowest AAV out of all 50 of those deals.
No way.
Yeah. Wow. So the only deal that's lower was Mike Matheson's
deal. Bizarre deal.
Who got traded, by the way?
Which was 8 years and $4.9 million. Nuge comes in at number 49 on the length on the AAV of 8-year deals. So is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. I guess it's value on an 8-year contract, but if you're handing out this amount of term to a guy who's kind of in the middling, because we said this for like years, that's where you mess up your salary cap, is in these middling deals. So if you're handing out this many years to a guy who's in the middle of your salary cap, he's not going to live up to it by the end of it. He's 28 already, and he's going to be signed through, 2026?
2029.
2029, sorry, even further. So I don't know. And like, Ken Holland has a history of this. He gave Justin Abdelkader 7 years and 4.25. You guys remember that?
Yeah, and the Leafs almost took that stupid contract on because Babs liked them so much.
Right. And so Abdelkader's last season in the NHL was the lockout year, the pandemic year. He played 49 games, had 0 goals, 3 assists. That October, Detroit buys him out. He hasn't played in the NHL since, and now they're paying his deal till they're paying the buyout, and there's a cap hit against it till 2026. Jesus. So I don't know. Ken Holland has a history of this.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see the sunny side here.
Well, there's a lot of sunny side for Nuge because on the open market, what's he worth? $7 million? You think? Mm-hmm. That's probably fair.
He's such a confusing player because like Kerfoot makes 3.5 as a winger who can play center. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But like Nuge is such a higher stakes version of that.
Yes.
Like $7 million as a center on the free agent market. Yeah, absolutely. But he's only doing that like half the time in Edmonton.
Right. And I guess if you're paying that, he's playing center all the time. But I think in this particular case, what's interesting about this deal, other than the fact that the first, I think he's okay for the first 4 years, and I'll tell you why in just a second. But in the first 4 years, $22.75 million is paid out of the $41 million turn. So more than a half in the first 4. And I know that sounds just about halfway. However, what's interesting about the last 3 of the 4 years is they all include signing bonuses. And Oilers Nation rightly pointed out that 26-27 and 27-28 both have the potential to be lockout years in the NHL. So he essentially is guaranteeing himself a $2 million, a $2.5 million, and a $1.5 million signing bonus. So he doesn't lose that money, because you would lose it. You just lose it. It's gone. And I think, at that point in his career, there's no way he's going to be able to recoup that. If you lose that at 23, you're probably going to be okay, because you can make that back up the next contract that you sign. Although, I mean, there's an argument to be made that you have a limited amount of time. That's the amount of time you get. You lose money, it's gone. So I think in this case, it's a little bit of lockout assurance for him. I also think if you're paying out a good chunk of that early, it does make the contract, as much as it seems not tradable. You can't buy it out. but you can trade it. And I think the other thing that we're forgetting here is that we're in the first year of the supposed 3-year lockdown on the salary cap going up. Now they were telling us before the season started, the cap was going to stay flat for 3 years. I can't imagine that what they said publicly before the deals with TNT and ESPN were signed echoes exactly how they would feel today. And that's because if you look at where we were when the season started, America had just finished one of the most vicious presidential races we've ever seen. Nobody was vaccinated. Like, we're talking January here, right? Nobody's vaccinated. We're not sure how long it's going to take for the borders to open up. Now here we are 6 months later. It's a completely different story with two pretty fantastic television rights deals. And you got to think growth in the game. You're part of ESPN now, you're part of TNT, both major sports networks. And sometimes if you've got the product and you don't have the platform, it really makes a difference when you get the platform. You got to go where the people are. It's like, I remember I was working for a company years ago, and their whole focus outside of being on the radio was having a video go viral. But they were bound and determined that they were not going to use YouTube. They said, we're not going to put our videos on YouTube. We can't give them away for free like that. Oh. So they invested something like $250,000 in this company called Bright Cove. And they were like, we want you to go viral, but on Bright Cove. And
my sworn enemy.
So we were like, this is I'm not sure how we're going to go viral and on Bright Cove. This is like 2011. And I think, it's a bit of a weird example, but I think the NHL probably is looking at the salary cap going up. I would think sooner. Maybe next year it stays the same, which it will.
There were rumors of 5. I never believed it for a moment.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be 5. I think it's going to be after next season. If you see it go up $1 million or $2 million, the higher that cap goes up, the less you're going to worry about a Ryan Nugent-Hopkins cap. And I think that you're going to see a pretty big growth in the game in the next 3 to 4 years. And I think you're going to see alongside of that, a big growth in what teams are able to spend. I mean, like, listen, you still got Tampa spending $100 million in real salary this year, right? So it's possible. And I just think if you look at long-term, this deal doesn't sting so hard to me. If we look at it from our term right now, $81.5 million, if he's 38 and making $3.75 million, yeah, that's a bit concerning.
Oh, it's horrible.
What's the percentage of cap? So $3.75 million or 5.125 against the cap. That is somewhere akin to 7 or 8% of the cap right now, right? If a few years from now it's 2% of the cap, do you really care? And he's a good guy, and he's one of the most popular Oilers ever.
This is the same defense we made for the Matthews and Marner contracts.
Okay, fine.
But that's not good. Oilers fans hate that on principle because it's comparable to Toronto.
I know. I'm just saying, do you not think, guys, that there's gonna global pandemic thing happen? You're not supposed to say global pandemic, by the way. You're supposed to say pandemic because pandemic does mean global. Pandemic aside,
okay, loser,
it's going up, right?
Sure. Yeah, listen. If you're a GM, fine. If you're a fan, stop worrying about where this team's going to be 5, 6, 7, 8 years from now. For the next few years, listen, you had a dog shit playoff series against the Jets, but I don't know how you can't look at this regular season and not view it as a step forward for this team. Connor McDavid is truly on another level. Leon Draisaitl's right there with him. Your defense did take steps. You got to go. Darnell Nurse finished, I think, top 10 in Norris voting. There are reasons to be happy if you're an Oilers fan. There are other questions for sure, but I don't think you should be worrying about Nuge right now.
So you should, if you're Ken Holland and all of the owners there and the Edmonton alum who also run the team, you're trying to win the Stanley Cup within the next, or at least make a run at it within the next 3 to 4 years. So McDavid's happy and Draisaitl's happy and the fan base is happy. This is a necessary window here where you're trying to win the cup. So you hand out this contract and you pay extra on the years because you have to. And then you worry about that probably when the next guy comes through and he's now in charge of the team. And this is just your window. You go for it. You hand out the deal. It's the same thing with the Mitch and the Matthews and the Nylander thing. They have such a window here that they need to win that, hey, in 7 years, we'll worry about that in 7 years.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing I do want to quickly mention, guys, just in case they can't trade him and they want to try to buy him out, for the last 2 years of the deal, this is how it looks, and it's not pretty. They'd owe him money for 4 years. So in years 1 and 2, Edmonton would have 3.6 and 2.4 million against the cap, then a subsequent 1 million for the following 2. If the Oilers want to buy out the final 3 years, they would owe him money for 6 years. In years 1, 2, and 3, a cap hit of 3.5 million. 3.8 million and 2.3 million, and then the final 3 years would be 944K. So you're gonna have to trade him. You can't buy him out.
Right.
Yeah. Or you keep him and he's great.
Buyouts so rarely make sense when one of the worst buyouts in the league, like possibly league history, considering we're talking about the salary cap here, is the Preds with Kyle Turris. Like, bro, you couldn't have held on to him for, what was it, 1 or 2 more years? They're paying him $2 million next year, and the 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 next year. 6 years of $2 million of dead cap.
He had $3 million, or he had a $6 million a year deal for 3 more years.
Bro, figure it out.
Yeah.
Surely there's a better option than that.
I like the NBA's buyout contract. I don't know the details of how it works because I don't know the NBA salary cap that much. But every year after the trade deadline, there's like a little buyout window where you can just buy out guys. And you get big name players who are just on bad teams and teams just buy them out for no reason. And then all of a sudden they're free agents in the middle of the season. And it's fun because you get like DeMarcus Cousins and Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan just joining these playoff contenders for no reason other than they just got released from their teams.
Or Jeremy Lin. Linsanity in Toronto.
Linsanity, too.
That's right.
Yeah. But the thing with that, Jesse, is what does that do?
Adds fun to the league.
Adds fun to the league. After the trade deadline, it's not a shit tired, like, okay, now we've got 3 weeks or 4 weeks till the playoffs and everybody's going to limp there. You got these B and C level stars that used to be A level stars joining mega teams, and people go, well, it's only the big market teams that get to sign them. That's not true in the NBA, actually. And you see that time and time again. And I think
it's teams with a chance to win. That's where the X stars go. It's whoever's going to look like they're going to contend for a championship. It's fun.
The excitement level with that is great, too. Like, it's amazing.
It is great. But unfortunately, the NBA is not the NHL, and the cap is there to literally protect NHL general managers from themselves.
Mm-hmm. They'd all be so loaded up by the time the trade deadline passed anyway, no one would be able to sign anyone.
Yeah, like if we're talking about things that would make the league more fun, we're not speaking Gary Bettman's language here. He's there to run a business. He's there to run a business, and it is what it is, man.
Well, at least he's got Josh Richards. Am I right?
Yes.
No salary cap on that.
I just want to shout out to David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, who did a lot of that great research on Nugent's contract.
He did? Oh, yeah, nice. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm shouting out Oilers Nation, who I got it from. So I do want to get into Montreal.
I want to shout out Adam Wilde, who I heard it from.
Oh, sorry. Before we get into Montreal, Duncan Keith. There's a couple of things. So first off, what was weird, Steve, is we found out today that basically the Chicago Blackhawks were shopping him, but to 2 teams.
Right. So Elliot Friedman initially breaks it with, well, it could be a team in the Pacific Northwest or Western Canada. And so all of us, we got out our maps and we said, okay, there's one NHL team in the Pacific Northwest and they haven't played yet. And then there's the Canucks, the Oilers, the Flames, and then there was a bit of an argument as to whether or not the Winnipeg Jets are included.
The things people take from comments is so ridiculous. There's one mention of Western Canada, and then Winnipeg jumps up, and they're like, "Us too."
Yeah,
we're Western.
Toronto. It used to be Western Conference. It's west of Newfoundland. It could be the Leafs.
The weird thing was, Steve, that apparently Vancouver didn't know.
Yeah, so Rick Dollywall reporting that supposedly Vancouver didn't know, so I guess they weren't offered a spot in the sweepstakes. He also reported that he's heard Seattle is out. So the Oilers are the front runner here, and Archeola guy, one of my favorite Oilers follows, is, again, just running around, head on fire, just the sky is falling, everything is awful. Now, I can support the idea of a Duncan Keith trade. Like, I can support the idea of acquiring him. Well, so the Canucks, what I saw there, because everyone's like, dude, look at his numbers from this past season. He's 37. He's got a high cap hit. He's washed.
Yeah. And the reason he wants to play in Western Canada is because his family and his son lives in Penticton, BC. So
the Penticton V's. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Pierre.
Yes, you're welcome. Hey, do you need to know Junior A crap? I got it. Do you need to know teams that may or may not exist anymore? Because the last time I worked in junior was 2009. I'm your guy. So with Vancouver, I looked at that, and there were so many games this year, Leafs Canucks, where I looked at Quinn Hughes, and you see all the talent, and I'm like, God, this kid's drowning. Like this kid, he's struggling to stay afloat. He's been given such a burden so early in his career, and he's being expected to be so many things that he's not. And then I looked at the potential for a Duncan Keith trade, and knowing his limitations at how old he is and, all those miles on his body and the cap hit and everything, I was like, okay, let's put all of that aside. What a guy to learn from. So we start there. There's the basis for why a trade makes sense. What a guy to learn from. Okay, so how do we get around all the other shit? Well, he's going to have a reduced role, and also we can dump another contract in the deal. We can be like Tyler Myers, for example, because if you're looking for bad contract versus bad contract, Vancouver's a great partner there. Hey, what do you need? You need a bad contract up front? You need a bad contract on D? We got a variety of bad contracts. Come on down to Jim's Bad Contract Emporium. We got everything you could ever ask for.
Well, and Duncan Keith makes a lot of sense for the Canucks because they're not afraid of term. That's for sure. Like
there is that. And
not afraid of backdiving deals or term or anything like that. Or hey, if I retire, it's going to cost you money, even though I play for another team now.
And he's especially appealing because the vast majority of the money in his contract is paid. Then the conversation turns to the Oilers, and I go, oh, no, okay, that makes less sense. I'm very curious to see how that works. I saw Caleb Jones' name mentioned, and I don't support it. I don't support it if the Oilers have to give up anything to do it. If that makes any sense.
And I'm curious as to why any team would. Like, what is it like? Even okay, no, I know Edmonton's got Vancouver's got to shed salary, but I'm curious: is Tyler Myers that useless that he wouldn't play?
That's a question you're going to have to ask Chicago because they never picked up the phone.
Well, yeah, that's true. I'm just curious as to I'm curious as to a bit maybe Chicago just didn't see on anything on Edmonton they want Vancouver. I'm curious about. Because Nate Schmidt's name has been thrown out there again. And I'm really confused as to why. I think he had a bad year in Vancouver, but it wasn't a great team season for the Canucks anyway, most of the way. I wonder if, and this is just me spitballing here, but okay, so you get Tyler Myers for Duncan Keith. If you're the Blackhawks, I wonder about that and go, okay, well, that just puts us right back where we started. We're trying to trade Duncan Keith because we want to get rid of the cap hit, right?
Why would either of these teams? So there's two teams, Seattle and Edmonton, essentially. So why would they help Chicago? Keith,
everybody helps the Blackhawks.
Everybody. Why if you're Ken Holland or you're sitting in Seattle, why are you like, hey, Keith wants to come here and we don't really want him? Why are we going to go out and get him? You can go spend that 5.5 on your salary cap in a different way.
I wonder if they think he's got the pedigree, right? He's been to the Cup final, and it's well, yeah, but can he make it through 82 games and 4 playoff series?
5.5?
What we're forgetting is the Blackhawks might retain on more deals than anybody else. They either have a team retain for them, or they're the ones who retain.
Can they retain on Keith? So he's at 5.5 cap hit?
I think he's just under that.
So do you take 37-year-old Duncan Keith on your team for 2.25?
It's 5.538462.
Because he's one of those forever contracts that
Does anybody want to divide that in two?
Divide.
What's 50% of that?
Jesse, help me.
I got it.
Well, just over 2 million, 2.2, 2.3, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you
then
take Duncan Keith? Listen, what are you paying Chris? Okay, 2.7. I don't know why that feels high, but
it does.
What I mean is not high in terms of the number you've given me, but it just feels high for Duncan Keith. That's close to $3 million for Duncan Keith. Look at what Edmonton did play last year. If you're willing to play Chris Russell at $2 million, what's wrong with the little Duncan Keith at 2.7?
Well, you got to get good at some point. This is the big issue that they're having, but they have, similar, I guess, to Quinn Hughes, Darnell Nurse. He's 26 now, but who's ever really been there?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And Ethan Bear is young. Chris Russell is not young, but he's also
Oscar Klefbom may never play again.
There's a huge question mark there. They're probably going to graduate Evan Bouchard. That's a bit of a guess. Philip Broberg, there's some potential there. Caleb Jones, they may move on from. They do have some young guys who could use at least a half decent mentor.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, he knows how to be a very good defenseman in the National Hockey League. There's something there, but if there's rumors about them buying out James Neal. There were rumors. I saw Mikko Koskinen was trending. Ooh. And that's a potentially soft buyout if the Blackhawks want to go straight there. They acquire him 4.5, buy him out immediately, is this
Koskinen or Neal?
Koskinen.
I think doesn't Koskinen, what's he got, a year left on that deal?
A year left at 4.5.
So if you're Blackhawk, you don't care about next year.
No, you play that out. Yeah.
Let him play for you.
So maybe you just hold on to him. There's a deal to be made.
The fact that he was trending is so funny to me.
Yeah.
It happens.
There were people who remember how many people tried to explain to us how great that deal was?
Cole Caulfield trended almost every day of this past season, and he hadn't played a game.
Mitch Marner was trending this morning. Yeah,
I believe it. What'd he do now?
It was
still nothing. Well, it's everyone's just angry.
And I'll actually, I found the tweet that I think is the reason behind it, but we'll get to that later. I think it does. Duncan Keith makes sense in that sense, Steve, but at $2.7 million, I wonder if, and I don't think Ken Holland's the guy to do this, and I don't think Stan Bowman's the guy to do this, but if you were to get creative and run that through a team that had extra cap space. So let's say you can do what the Leafs did with Foligno, and you trade him somewhere else, and so it's retain
double
again.
Retain. Yeah.
So if you get, so what does that put Keith at? Now you're at 1.35 million or something like that. You get him for, what is it, 3 more years at 1.35 million? Tell me that hurts you. It doesn't.
Only 2 years.
Oh, is it 2? Oh, it's not.
Now, I was shitting on Gary Bettman earlier. Do we all understand now why they put an 8-year cap on contracts?
Yes.
To prevent this silly shit. There hasn't been one of these deals that we haven't run into problems with.
Right. And the DiPietro deal, I mean, yeah, but here's the problem with that, Steve, is that from the worker side, if you're a pro worker side, limiting your contractual value because billionaires can't get their head on straight is a troubling development.
Yes, but right? I'm running the league, so I as the commissioner of the league, I am naturally anti-worker.
Right.
Okay. So
yeah.
So wait, did you just accuse me? Oh, thank you. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me, Gary Bettman.
I put that on my resume when I got hired here.
The first thing I put it bigger than my name on the cover letter. Can you believe that they made me put a cover letter? I'm applying to be the commissioner. Well, I suppose it is 1993. So anyway, that was a weird little sketch that we went down. There's it's impossible for me to have a proper opinion on anybody acquiring Duncan Keith without knowing who's coming the other way. If they give up a future, if the Oilers give up a future to get it done,
that's ridiculous.
That's stupid.
I think to get it done, And to get anything back for Duncan Keith, it would make sense to bring a third team in. And I think if you're the Oilers, you go, okay, Chicago, you go find them and you go sort out whatever it is going to do it. And then we'll give you something. We'll give you a 3rd round pick. We'll give you something at, if we can get him for 1.25 or 1.35, I take Duncan Keith any day because he's your 6'7" defenseman.
Especially because the trade is being so limited. Like you can only go to 2 teams or 3 teams in this little area. Like it sounds like the smart thing to do to get another team just involved in the transaction just to make it easier on everybody.
And the real money in that is nothing. Like call the Senators, call the Coyotes. Like what's Duncan Keith actually owed this year?
Seattle could still be involved in the deal.
Yeah, all of that is fake money. That's just
like what is he owed? What's his real salary? So
if Seattle doesn't think they can make a good enough team, they should be the 3rd team in every trade this summer.
Well, I think that they think they can.
Just acquire every 5th round pick.
So I'm looking at Duncan Keith's real salary here. 21, 22 is what we're looking at, right?
2.1 and 1.5.
That ain't much.
Yeah. No. You're
talking about a league min player, like in terms of like what another team would have to take on.
Yeah.
So I would even, who else might be in a dark horse for that is Columbus. I think that Arizona needs to recoup assets, so maybe they should consider it. But Columbus, to me, they're retooling, and I think because Arizona got fined every draft pick they ever had. But with Columbus, they seem to be in that retooling mode. I know they got to move Seth Jones. We're going to talk about that a little bit later in the show if we have time. But to me, Columbus makes a lot of sense in these sorts of moves because it costs them very little, and they might be able to get assets out that they really want because it seems like it's a bit of a new beginning in Columbus and maybe a couple of years of pain. Now, I got to move us on, guys, to Montreal.
Here, real quick.
Okay.
Rapid fast.
Yeah.
Someone tweeted me, this isn't Chicago trying to change the subject, is it? No, they still have to run a hockey team, and we're not going to let them change the subject.
No, exactly. No. I don't think that's what this is at all.
No.
Okay, so moving on to Montreal, Tampa. I don't know. To me, guys, it seems like that's the game that Montreal should have won. It's the game they deserve to win. But here's the big takeaway for me. If I go look through all the stats and I watch the footage and I watched the game in 6 again this morning, Montreal gave away the puck 6 times the entire game, and 3 of them led to goals.
Oh. The
Edmonton
second and third.
So the end of the second period was bad. That was because they just went to sleep.
It can't happen. It's and it was 2 veteran defensemen making 2 mistakes that can't happen. Edmondson, I guess, had a brain fart. Maybe he was fooled by either Kucherov or Palat going around or something like that. At least on that one, you get fooled. Sherratt. There are 5 seconds left in that period. Bro. There were so many. Tampa's had a few plays.
Shoot it. Just shoot it down.
Tampa's had a few plays in this series where they've been inches from the blue line, but they want to maintain possession. Sort of like the Leafs. The Leafs have done this too. They've been inches from the blue line. Just get it out. Literally, just get it out. And they fail. And then here comes Montreal like a swarm, and it's in their zone for another 10, 15, 20, 30 seconds. You know what I mean? So those little mistakes will happen. But Sherratt, bro, there's 5 seconds left. Surely there's a better option than it looked like a lazy stick check.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting too? I've been watching. You say you can watch Tampa. We said this about the Islanders in Tampa. You watch Tampa, you watch the Islanders, you can learn something about hockey.
Yes.
Even when Montreal was out shooting them like 30-16 or whatever that ridiculous number was in the second period, there were little things that Tampa was doing. You could tell they hunt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even when they're not on their game, they're hunting. And they have a way of getting into your zone. This is when they were at their sloppiest, their worst. And I think it was the Coleman-Gaudreau line that it was like a ping, ping, ping across the blue line and deep into the Montreal zone. And I should have marked down the time so you could go back and watch it. And it's just they all knew where each other was going to be. There was 3 forwards in the same area and they didn't fuck it up. They just went deep in the zone and in. And I think what's fascinating about the Tampa Bay Lightning is even at their worst days are better executed than most teams' best days. The Leafs could not hold a candle to this team. Not a chance. Like, the Leafs can't even get the puck past the team's blue line. They couldn't do it against Montreal. Sorry, go ahead.
Two things with what you said there, Adam. The shots. So the shots were, I think it ended 41-23. The shots, like, almost nearly double the amount from Montreal. But the expected goals, Tampa 2.1, Montreal 1.8.
Wow.
So I have a bone to pick with that.
Okay, and then I got something else. Go ahead.
Okay.
Because I saw a very interesting debate between two Montreal gentlemen who I know and love, Mark Dumont and Andrew Berkshire. So there was it was either a breakaway or a 2-on-1 or partial something. I think it was Gallagher coming down on Vasilevsky, and Vasilevsky pokes it. It was a stick check just outside the blue paint. That's not a scoring chance.
Yeah.
I agree.
And I totally disagree. So that was a conversation between Mark, because Mark is like, well, yeah, but he came close to scoring, and Berkshire's like, yes, but there was no shot on goal. It was very interesting, the back and forth, because I agree, if there's no shot on goal, I don't know how you register it, but everyone in the building, everyone watching it went, oh! And to me, any instance where you go, oh shit, like to me, anything that looks, oh! To me, any of those, that's a scoring chance, man. Like, he had a breakaway, and something Vasilevsky did that can't be quantified in a defensive metric, right? Like, he's not a defenseman. So something Vasilevsky did, even though it's not a save, prevented that scoring chance to me.
That's where the eye test and the numbers kind of converge. And I look at that. I say the numbers aren't lying here, and the numbers are truthful, because Tampa Bay's defense, Vasilevsky in this case, stopped the puck at a point where it didn't become a shot on goal. They stopped the play before it became a chance at a shot for Montreal. So that's where I'm like, the numbers are correct here.
You're absolutely right about it. And the thing, Jesse, to that point, is Tampa has been well documented after 2 seasons ago where they blew it against Columbus. It was well documented, the changes they made in their defensive structure in order to push shots to the outside or make them low danger shots. They do that time and time and time again. So you can get a lot of shots, but then, Andrei Vasilevsky is pretty good if you can see it, and pretty good even on a rebound.
The biggest, there were none. That was the thing.
Right.
And what I noticed with Vasilevsky is he's a sponge. He's Kirby. Like, the puck just gets absorbed into him, into his equipment, into his logo. It was actually quite Carey Price-esque, the way he didn't have to flip out or fly all over the place. It was a lot of cookie cutter saves.
I also want to bring up one quick stat on this too, Jesse. Do you have your second point to get to here?
Yeah. Off the top, you mentioned the turnovers. So you said 3 turnovers, 3 goals. In the series, it's been 6 turnovers, 8 goals for Tampa. There's been 6 total turnovers that have led directly to 6 of their 8 goals. So Montreal's their total possessions, has turned the puck over 16.6% of its total possessions against Tampa on even strength. So that number is an improvement over their play over the first 3 rounds. So this is why Montreal should look at this. And if you're a Montreal fan, I'm sorry, you have no hope in the rest of the series, because the turnovers, turnovers are leading directly to the result of the goals. Your turnover ratio has improved from 17% to 16%. You are better against Tampa in not turning over the puck than you were against Vegas, Winnipeg, and Toronto. You're doing better, and you're losing. And the turnovers, because Tampa is so deadly that this little percentage change is still having such a huge effect on their goal scoring. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So fast.
They got no hope here.
And to that point, the Mark Stone special, and I love this stat because giveaways are different than takeaways. So the giveaways, Tampa gave away the puck more, but the takeaways were, I think it was like 9-3 Tampa. And that's the, lift the stick, take the puck away. Because here's the thing, when you have a takeaway, it's not directly a giveaway. Do you know what I'm saying?
Okay. No, I understand that.
You can give the puck away without it being a takeaway. And so the takeaways for Tampa are exceedingly high as well in this series. And that's the thing. It goes back to the hunting thing. There is, 3 seconds left and Blake Coleman's diving for a puck. How many teams are going to do that? Do you know what I mean?
Their maximum effort, the Coleman dive, the Gaudreau seeing 5 seconds on the clock and going, this is great.
Yeah. Or not
Kucherov,
seeing it, just playing.
Kucherov's on everyone's tail. Underrated workhorse player, Andre Palat. Andre Palat is not as advertised at all. That guy is a worker bee. He's a premium worker bee. And Yanni Gourde, Tampa doesn't know how to give less than 1,000%.
I know it would be pretty tough to do, but if you're giving me the option of spending, what is it, $5 or $6 million on Zach Hyman and his rebuilt knee, or Blake Coleman, I'm spending it on Blake Coleman.
Yeah,
and he's a UFA this year.
So I'm Blake interested. Coleman.
Well, I'm his number one fan.
Tampa's going to bring him back. Tampa's going to bring him back at $8 million, 8 years, and fit it under, and it's going to be fun.
Yep. And there's going to be some sort of shenaniganery, but and good
Steve,
for them.
You sound bitter. Astute.
I mean, and is there better value in the league at $1.8 million per season than Blake Coleman?
Shut up!
That's what he makes.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
I remember when he was on the first line in New Jersey, he led the league. I remember this just strictly from fantasy hockey. He's always a great fantasy pickup because he leads the league in hits every year. He was on the first line, so he'd always play these minutes. It was awesome. And then, he went to Tampa and wins the Stanley Cup, and it's unbelievable.
All they gave up for him was a first-round pick.
And at least the third diving goal of his career, by the way. If you type in Blake Coleman one-handed, he did a one-handed wrist shot with the Devils. He had a diving goal in last year's playoffs against the Bruins. That was the one where Zach Bogosian randomly decided, I'm Erik Karlsson now, and he took the puck and flew into the zone, dangled around everybody, and he dove and gave it to Blake Coleman, who also dove. And then that's why during the stream I went, he did it again. I can't believe it. It's the third time. This friggin' guy. Unbelievable.
Yeah, he's a heck of a player. I love watching that Gaudreau Coleman line. So it's just it, and I hate to bring it back to the Leafs, but it's everything the Leafs don't have.
Well, and
everything.
Another thing I said on the stream, I go, do you remember there was a time where we thought Tampa gave up too much for these two?
Yeah.
They're
2
wins away from 2 cups.
I don't think anybody complained about the Blake Coleman deal, but the Barclay Goudreau was
that was weird.
That's a lot for Barclay. But again, remember I mentioned last episode when the Pats would grab players and you'd be like, what? Why? And they just turn them into stars in the Pat system. It seems like that's what Tampa's got going on. They're able to pull guys in, and obviously Gaudreau they paid a lot for, but he's not the Barclay Goudreau that was in San Jose, is he? I think he's much better than that now.
Well, he certainly plays on a better team. And Tampa does such a good job of acquiring big name, seemingly rental guys and then keeping them.
Pat Maroon.
Ryan McDonough.
Yeah.
Barclay Goudreau. Blake Coleman.
Sergachev.
Well, he wasn't a rental, but that was trading.
Oh, they shouldn't have been able to keep him this past offseason.
The fact that they've kept him on the team all this time when he's a young, great player, and he didn't have to slip and fall down.
And here's the thing. When do you trade a 3rd overall pick and come out on top? Did the Jets not just do that this offseason? They traded a 2nd overall.
Yeah.
But and so did Columbus.
Montreal trading Galchenyuk.
When do you ever come out on top?
It's rare.
Trading a 3rd overall guy and you get a better defenseman back? That's cool. It's great maneuvering.
They're really good. I can't wait for them to lose someone we've never heard of to Seattle.
Yeah. For nothing. For
5 career games played.
Brisebois just stares down Ron Francis and goes, here's who you're picking.
Yeah.
And now I do have to move us on because again we're a bit shorter today. The Jack Eichel saga looks like it's coming to an end a little bit here, and I got a bit of a theory on this, but I'm going to read you what was written in the Associated Press. So obviously you know that he's got a herniated disc in his neck. Jack wants the surgery. The Sabres do not want him to get it. They think they can rehab it out. And depending upon who you talk to, I've talked to a couple like back and neck specialists about this. They'll tell you that, listen, rehab in the long term is way better because surgery can cut your career shorter. And they'll say that with any injury. But sometimes it depends on the severity of it. With a herniated disc, the only way to fix it sometimes is to have surgery. So the agent texted and said this to an Associated Press reporter named Peter Fish. We are communicating with the team and are heading towards a resolution. That's as much as we know. But it means that there's been progress. And I wonder if the progress of this on both sides is, hey, listen, we can't get a deal done until we resolve the medical issue, until we get some sort of confirmation. And I want you to think about this as you're the acquiring team. So you're the Rangers, you're Philadelphia, Rangers and Philadelphia, who seem to be in on every big name player this offseason. Maybe even Colorado. Vegas has called. We know that with, and rightfully so, they need a top line center. This is a guy that's going to come in and take 12.3% of your cap. That's a huge number. 10 million sounds big. 12.3% of your cap. You better make sure he's playing, or you know exactly how long it's going to be before he plays. And I think the injury status of Jack Eichel affects his value on the open market, because Buffalo's probably looking at this going, well, you guys aren't making fair deals to us. And they're saying he's injured and you haven't come to a resolution and we don't know what we're getting. So how are you going to expect me to give up 12% of my cap for a guy that is a big fat fucking question mark? I just don't. So I feel like Jack wants to move on. The Sabres want to move on. They probably are like, okay, it's in our best interest to figure this out, because he's not moving until then.
I think we're either like 3 days away from a Jack Eichel trade or 3 months.
Yeah. Interesting.
Like it's with Seattle so close, the expansion draft so close, like there's a deadline here, man. Like we got shit to plan. And if you're one of the teams vying for Jack Eichel, I'm screaming at the Sabres every day on the phone saying, listen, I'm going to have to be out at some point. Like maybe the move for the Sabres here is handle this medically and just tell everybody, listen, we're still going to get something done. It's going to have to wait.
If I'm one of the other 31 GMs, I don't trade for Eichel until I see him on the ice again. I think this is probably like a November move. Like, hey, you get all your medical stuff done with Buffalo, and then we'll trade for you.
Well, and then if that's the case, Jesse, he might not play till January or February.
Why would you trade for him in that case?
It's a good question, especially because acquiring teams want to be competitors for the playoffs.
Sabres are in an incredibly tough spot.
Yeah. I mean, waiting might be the best plan of attack, but who's to say Jack Eichel's ever going to suit up for you again? Like they may not. We don't know that. I'm not saying that he wouldn't, but do we know for sure that Jack, and really, what kind of Jack Eichel are you going to get? Let's say he gets out on the ice and he's not motivated. Not that Jack Eichel would be that type of player, but you saw what happened with Pierre-Luc Dubois. And I'm not saying that he's going to go out there and just, go for a leisure skate and do nothing, but he's not going to be 100% hard in it, Jack Eichel.
So if you're Buffalo, do you hurry up a deal because you're afraid he'll never be Jack Eichel again? Or if you're another team, do you not trade for him because you don't think he's going to be good again?
I'm curious about what the market is. If it's 3 teams, they all seem to be of the same opinion that, we're not going to, I bet Kevin Adams has got 3 guys offering similar packages and he wants one more piece to pull the trigger. And none of those teams will offer it because of this medical issue. It seems like it is, right? Like it's 3 or 4 teams. New York always has been in on this. Vegas is now apparently in. Philadelphia is in on everybody. Colorado might be. I don't know. We'll see.
Kings now,
I guess. Kopitar and Eichel up the center would be pretty scary, by the way.
Yeah, not bad, eh? Sabres fans have been through so much. And I think the Sabres have to be delicate with their feelings, because you think I'm annoyed with the Leafs. I mean, Sabres fans have no reason to be happy with the Sabres at all. So what could be psychologically for the fan base good for them? You get the Eichel deal out of the way. There's a week or two for, you let fans be upset. You let the pain happen. Hopefully it dissipates a little. And then you know what you get to do? Draft first overall.
Yeah.
Draft first overall. You get everyone fired up and excited about that. You take this kid, you go, look at this friggin' kid. This is the new guy. This is plus all the stuff we got for Jack, whatever that is. This is the Buffalo Sabres are the team of the future. Like to me, that's the move. That's the move psychologically, but I don't know how you get max value for a guy with a hurt neck.
What was the Edmonton tweet when they traded Taylor Hall and they signed Milan Lucic, and they were like, the one of the writers in Edmonton's like, well, if you look at the Taylor Hall deal, like they were able to get Milan Lucic on it as well, then it's a pretty solid move.
It was
which is way bad now.
Taylor Hall for Puljujarvi and Lucic, and it's
not good. Anyway, no. But I mean, maybe Buffalo's looking at it that way. I don't know. It's curious to me because we were saying, last round we were hearing they were days away from an Eichel deal. I think the medical thing has to be the thing holding it up. Otherwise, it's a can't miss trade. You do what you can to get it. Explain the Viktor Arvidsson trade to me like I'm 4 years old.
Okay,
so here's what happened. The Predators have traded him to the LA Kings for draft picks,
a second and a third
of this year.
Correct. I think it's one. No, so it's a second this year, a third next.
Okay.
So, and they both belong to LA. So here's what teams did Vegas time around is they went to a team with all the leverage and they said, let's make a deal. And the team with all the leverage who gets to take someone anyway said, okay. And they got to set the market. They had the upper hand in everything. Absolutely everything. Hey, you don't want us to take this guy? Well, it's going to cost Jonathan Marchessault and Riley Smith. You don't want us to take this guy? It's going to cost Marc-Andre Fleury and a second. You don't want to trade, or you don't want us to take this guy? It's going to cost this. It's going to cost that. So the strategy this time around, or at least with Nashville, appears to be take the team with all the leverage out of the equation. Right? Take Seattle out of the equation. Instead of convincing Seattle, hey, don't take this player and we're going to give you X, Y, and Z, you go to a team like the Kings who don't have nearly as much leverage. Like no one this summer is going to go, hey, LA, you get a free player from Nashville, right? So automatically they have less leverage. You go, hey, let's just make a deal. Let's just make a straight up deal. We got Viktor Arvidsson. And they decided they'll get more out of the Kings than they would out of Seattle. So people I saw in Nashville were talking about the Preds are going to try to do the 4-4 thing. So I was looking at who I would protect. So there's Roman Josi, who I have to, and I'm happy to.
Yeah.
There's Ryan Ellis, happy to do it. Eric Branson is a UFA. We don't need to worry about him. Matthias Ekholm is not a UFA until next year. Mm-hmm. I think in the next couple of weeks we could actually see a Matthias Ekholm trade, because if you trade him, then you could potentially do 7-3, which allows you to protect 10 players instead of 8. Right? So we go further down. Mark Borowiecki. Okay, do you have to? No. Seattle might take him. Maybe. Yeah, Dante Fabro. You protect him. You took him with a top 20 pick in 2016, but he's 23 now. He's almost like a higher stakes Travis Dermott for them. So that to me is where that list ends. But up front, it's a very interesting conversation, and I don't know if I want to protect 7 guys because there's no move clauses there. There's Duchesne. I'm not gonna lie. I think
wouldn't protect him.
I'd leave him exposed. Mm-hmm. He makes $8 million, which for his performance is far too much. There's Ryan Johansson.
Wouldn't protect him.
I would leave him exposed. $8 million, far too much. Philip Forsberg.
Would protect, but there's another guy with only 1 year left. David Poile might be a very busy bee this summer. Ooh. Michael Granlund.
UFA. So don't have to worry about it. So I'm going to click Forsberg. He's the first guy I'm clicking. Colton Sissons, might as well. Luke Cunnin, might as well. Rocco Grimaldi.
Why are you might as welling these guys?
Like I'm saying, like for protecting. I'm on the cap friendly website.
Yeah, no, but why? Like, should we be protecting those guys?
Oh, Jesse, this is part of the conversation, right? Like, so they have a ton of either UFAs or RFAs this year.
Okay.
Plus a bunch of guys expiring next year. The Preds have a ridiculous amount of flexibility. And they
probably could take on a forward or two from a team that needs to move on, like the Arvidsson thing.
So you dare Seattle to take Johansson or Duchesne and get those contracts off your books is what
I don't dare them. They're not going to do it. They're not going to do it. I leave them exposed to protect more valuable players.
Boy, if I'm Seattle, I don't hate picking up Duchesne, even though it's $8 million. I don't hate it.
Your cap is like it's free, you know.
From
you
a marketing
down a lot of teams for that Nashville deal, though.
From a
like he wanted to be in Nashville.
Yeah, you're looking at no matter what decision you make, whether it's on defense with the 4-4 or the 7-3, you're not losing anyone of too much significance. And because you have all these guys with a year left, like I think we might have been too hard on David Poile. Not rebuilding this year because they ended up making the playoffs anyway. And they have, like, if they want to go hard rebuild right now, after at least seeing what they have left in the tank, if they want to go hard rebuild right now, they're in a great spot. They absolutely can. So, and in net, they have UC Saros, who's an RFA. They'll protect him. And Pecorine, who's a UFA. They will not. So I think they were just doing this so they didn't lose a guy like Arvidsson or someone higher in the depth chart. Like they would have protected Arvidsson. But what about a guy like Kalle Järnkrok, right? Who's pretty good, low cap hit. I think they're just getting the most they can, and they're about to hit hard rebuild.
Does it mean, Steve, that they're able to then, because Seattle's got all the cards, right? If you're trying to dump salary.
Mm-hmm.
Do they get to be the team that's a little bit more on par, like the Kings were for them? Do they get to be what the Kings were to them for another team?
Can you say that one more time?
Well, okay. So you said you go to Seattle. Seattle set the table. They got all the cards in their favor.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you're a team and you're just to name one, Vancouver. You're in cap trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And if Nashville is in the retool/rebuild stage, you go to them and say, I need to get rid of this contract. Seattle's costing me this. What will you charge?
Right. I don't think other teams can do that. I think other teams can do that once.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And this was the Kings bullet. Right. So I'm looking at them. They're interesting too. There are going to be some big names exposed, I think. For example, Anze Kopitar. Well, heavens to Betsy. Of course you protect him. Mm-hmm. Dustin Brown?
No, I don't think you do. Did they protect him the last time? I don't think so.
I don't know. And now they got Arvidsson, they got Iafallo, they got Kempe. I'd probably leave Brendan Lemieux exposed. They got there's going to be a lot of deals. Teams are going to now the race is on over the next week and a half or so to get a deal like that, like the Arvidsson deal done with someone who, doesn't completely have all the cards in their favor. But I think a lot of big contract, like think of all the guys you saw on waivers this year, and teams left them on waivers because they knew they weren't going to get taken, or they were hoping they would get taken. Right now, you have an opportunity. There's this magical team with no cap hit, literally none. There's this magical team coming in. You're going to leave guys exposed. The Preds, I would leave both Johansson and Duchesne exposed if I was them.
Yep. I can see that.
It's and like, we talked about like Nugent-Hopkins and the Oilers, right? And what is Buffalo going to do with the cap space they get from trading Eichel? Well, both those markets have trouble attracting free agents. Nashville, they don't have that problem. You lose one of those two, wonderful. You bring in another guy.
Yep.
Or you don't lose those two. Maybe. Yo, can you imagine Eichel, Johansson, Duchesne? That's a lot of money.
If you're Kevin Adams, would you not take it? Like, I mean, I don't know if Matt Duchene's got a no trade, but if he doesn't, like, let's say they called you and they said, okay, we want to flip guys here. You don't hate Matt Duchene at $8 million, do you? To build somewhat of a team around with some young guys.
I think you need somebody younger.
Yeah, maybe you do. Maybe you do.
They just need good players.
They need players.
They literally need players. They just need good players. But if I'm Nashville, the main benefit here is at least I get something for Viktor Arvidsson, and now I can protect more guys.
Yeah. Okay.
It certainly makes it easier to protect 4D if you want to, and I think they do.
Moving on here, Jonathan Toews. I mean, sorry, quickly on Seth Jones, guys. I know he was linked to the Leafs by one source today, but don't think so. From everything we've heard, no interest in Seth Jones there. However, we could be wrong. Maybe tomorrow they pick up the phone and they get a deal done. The team supposedly in on Seth Jones are the Avs, the Hawks, the Kings, and the Flyers. And we're talking about a lot going one way for a player that may not sign an extension with you. So here's my question. I don't care about what the package may be because we could speculate to death and we really don't have the time. Does the team that gets Seth Jones have him extended by the time they trade for him? That's my question. And this is just you guys hypothetically. Do you think that any of the Avs, Hawks, Flyers, or Kings are willing to take the Kawhi Leonard risk and go, let's sell him on this? And it's not hard to sell a player on LA. It's not hard to sell a player on Chicago or Colorado or Philadelphia for that matter, because they're all good organizations. But do you give up assets for a guy that you know is going to walk in free agency or at least look?
Go through the teams.
Avs?
Yes.
Hawks?
No.
Flyers?
No.
And lastly, of course, the Kings.
No.
If you're the Avs, you do it.
Yeah.
Here's the thing with the Kawhi Leonard risk. The Raptors were already good.
I don't know why. Sorry, why do the Avs need Seth Jones?
I think the answer is they don't.
Okay, because that, like with Cale Makar there, I just thought
they need an odd one. I think they need to get larger and nastier. The conversation on Seth Jones has changed aggressively from the bubble because he was this minute-eating monster who just destroyed the Leafs and everyone was singing his praises. And now all of analytics hockey Twitter is like, this guy is a bum. So I don't know what to think.
Didn't he have this COVID? Player. He had COVID.
I don't know. It's also been tough this year because there are guys who I just straight up like didn't see. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm not alone there because like, I don't know. What am I doing with my day off? Raising my kid or watching Columbus.
Columbus was also awful. And like, how are we going to rate a guy's skills on an awful hockey team?
Yeah. When you got Patrick Laine unable to score a goal in the NHL for a team, I think if you were to look at what the way Columbus was coached last year, and I know Torts got blood from a stone for years from that team, I think usually he was able to get the best out of them. I think last year he got the worst out of them. Because how were they that much different than the team that beat the Leafs? Or that much different than the team? I guess they were a lot different than the team that beat the Lightning. But even so, without, I guess, Duchesne, they're missing that. They weren't that much different. But I just think, that was a coach that had run his course for sure. And then I guess lastly here, before we get to the press conference,
on those Seth Jones teams, none of those teams stand out to me. And I'm like, oh, that makes a ton of sense.
No.
They all seem, the Flyers seem to make the most sense to me because they want to move on so badly from Shane Gostisbehere.
Yeah,
and he's locked up and he's low term, as it were low average.
Wow, are those guys not the same?
No, they're not.
I would laugh very hard if that's what it's based around.
Well, I don't know if it would be, but I would think that the Flyers would want to include him. They just seem to want to get him out of town,
just to match the salary. I think.
Yeah,
like that's probably the other piece going back, plus a whole bunch of stuff. Just because
was he at 4.25?
4.5. Yeah, so you're like $1 million away already. So that makes sense. But like, just in terms of fit, I guess the Flyers would work. But the Blackhawks, like we went through, they're probably going to do a rebuild. Why are they getting Seth Jones? The Kings, maybe.
I don't understand that. Yeah, no, the Blackhawks are in on this, but he might walk in free agency next year.
The Kings' problem is they can't score goals. Like they were, I think, third worst in the league in terms of goals per game. And they haven't had a 30-goal scorer on their team since 17-18. Like that, they literally can't score a goal. So I don't know why your big get is a defenseman. Arvidsson makes perfect sense because there's a guy who's an ex-30 goal scorer. But yeah, so that doesn't.
Was the last guy Jeff Carter, by the way?
No, it was Kopitar who had his last 30 goal season, 17-18. But yeah, and then you named the Hawks. The Flyers kind of make sense. The Avs, you have Cale Makar to lock up. Like he's an RFA. Yeah. You go hand out a bunch of money to a young defenseman. Why are you going to get another one?
I know their philosophy is just get the best players available, and I respect that because it seems to be working for them. But Seth Jones is an odd pickup on the Avalanche for me. I just don't know. Just having seen it with the Leafs, when you have that many big forwards or that many big defensemen, sometimes there's just like, remember William Nylander had to run a second power play unit that saw 20% of the time, and William Nylander should be on the first power play unit on any team. There just isn't enough minutes to go around. And if you're playing one defenseman on the power play is only 2 minutes long. You'd be surprised how quickly a minute 15, a minute 30 happens. That's a shift. And so are you going to go get Seth Jones so we can run 30 seconds of a PP2? I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me.
Tekalainen, like I know Seth Jones too has a 10-team no move clause. So there's 10 teams that are X right away. But
so all the Canadian teams,
7 Buffalo. Canadian teams plus Buffalo plus
Arizona, maybe.
Columbus is on there again, so we can't resign.
Do not make me go to Columbus. Man, I want to go to Columbus just to see what's up with Columbus. Because I keep hearing great things about it from everybody that lives there. And then the players are like, I don't want to be here.
Steve has been for the All-Star game.
That's right.
I liked it.
The cannon year. It's 45 goals, and the cannon goes off every time.
You know how many traumatized kids, like that cannon is making the next generation of hockey fans in Ohio not want to become hockey fans.
The same with the Bucks, man. Every time they got in the red zone, not even got a touchdown, they got in the red zone. I was there for the last Jameis Winston start before Tom Brady took over the next season. And like Winston would just bring him within 10 yards of the zone, and the cannon would go off, whether they got anything or not. And it was just loud. And then, of course, then they score a touchdown. Cannon goes off. And then they get the extra point afterwards. Cannon goes off again. We're talking 3 cannon shots in like a minute.
Sports are scary enough. Like if you're a kid of a certain age, at random moments, the thousands of people you've never met start screaming. They're all bigger than you. It's,
They're
man.
All bigger than you.
They are. They're significantly, exponentially. And then there's a cannon. Yeah. No, thank you.
A couple of news and notes around Alex Tanguay is a new assistant coach in Detroit, and
but I'm the traitor.
Yeah, exactly. Avs fans hate it. And
that sucks.
Jonathan Toews is likely. I mean, he finally came out and said what was going on because he sort of disappeared. Nobody knew what was going on. According to an article in The Athletic, he's probably a COVID long hauler. He had it in February before it really kicked off for the rest of us. So he had it in February 2020 and had it really bad. Like it was nasty apparently. And then has had to deal with the side effects ever since. So he put out a video on his Twitter account. I encourage you to check it out. We are running out of time here. So let's do the press conference real quick. What interferes with your happiness? Is it something that you feel like is preventing you from achieving your goals? Like, so for instance, for me, before I was able to actually talk it through with a therapist, serious anxiety issues, things that I would spin out of things before I would even walk into a room. Like there'd be a meeting and I'd be freaking out about how the meeting was going to go before I'd even walked in. BetterHelp will help you assess what your needs are and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. And as somebody who's taken multiple years of therapy, it's so worth it. Now you can connect in a safe and private environment, super convenient, and you can start communicating in under 48 hours. It's not a crisis line, not a self-help book either. It's professional counseling done securely online. You send a message to your counselor anytime. You get timely and thoughtful responses. Plus, you can schedule weekly video sessions. And we're talking about licensed professional counselors who specialize in anger, family conflicts, LGBTQ plus matters, grief, self-esteem, trauma, sleeping, anxiety, stress, depression. Anything you share is confidential, it's convenient, it's professional, and it is affordable. Now you can get 10% off your first month by visiting betterhelp.com/STP. Again, join over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health. Be one of them. It's betterhelp.com/STP. Summer's here and hotter days are just around the corner. Keep cool with the help of our friends at Manscaped, who just launched their 4th generation performance package, which includes the Lawnmower 4.0. That's right. You heard that right. 4.0. Complement your summer grooming routine with a trim from the leaders in male grooming. The sun is shining and calling your name, fellas. Join over 2 million people worldwide who trust Manscaped and get ready for the summer. You got to get Manscaped, and you can get 20% off plus free shipping with the code DANGLE, DANGLE. Just check that out. It's super easy. Now, here's the thing. First off, the new Performance Package 4.0 includes the Lawnmower 4.0, truly the GOAT of all men's body trimmers, and goats would know they're hairy. Their 4th generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to advanced skin-safe technology. That's trademarked. The Lawnmower 4.0 also has a 7,000 RPM motor, a new multifunction on-off switch, which can engage a travel lock and gives you the ability to turn on a 4,000K LED spotlight so you can be a little bit more precise. And, you can put a little sunshine on it. You know what I'm saying? Did I mention the trimmer is waterproof too? So in the shower or in the sun, doesn't matter. Lawnmower 4.0 is the best trimmer for you. And like we said, get 20% off free shipping with the code DANGLE at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code DANGLE at manscaped.com. Stay fresh this summer and shine with Manscaped.
Okay. This press conference is going to be a little different because at Ghost of Grabba wants you guys to do a riddle, a brain teaser.
Oh,
you might be awful at this, or this might be amazing. We'll see.
I'm ready.
I'm not
ready.
Understand.
Are you ready? I'm going to read very slowly.
Okay.
You have a fox, a chicken, and a bag of seed. You come to a river with a raft that can only carry you and one extra at a time. The fox will eat the chicken, and the chicken will eat the seed if you leave them alone together. How do you get all 3 across?
Bro, what?
Which parts do you need me to reread?
How do you get all 3 across? So you got to separate the chicken. The chicken is the hinge point here, right? Because he'll either get eaten or he will eat. Right?
Yes, the fox will eat the chicken, and the chicken will eat the seed.
I think I have the answer.
All right, go for it, Steve.
First you take the fox, then you take the seed, then you take the chicken.
No. If you take the fox first, the chicken will eat the seed.
Right. That's why I was saying you got to pull the chicken out of the equation because the fox not interested in the seed. But then
I was thinking about the other side of the river. Shoot.
Well, then the other side, what do you take over next? The fox or the chicken?
Wait.
So you can only bring one at a time, Jesse, right?
Okay.
Yes. Why are we so dumb? Why haven't we got this already? Although you asked this question knowing how intelligent we are, which is okay. So you're taking you got to take the chicken, right? Right off the bat.
I put the fox and the seed in the boat together. The fox paddles it across.
No. Adam, you're on the right track.
Okay. But then
don't listen to Steve.
What did Adam say?
Again, the chicken is the hinge point, Steve. So we got to remove the chicken from the equation. So then you leave the chicken on the other side of the river, right? Is that what happens?
Keep going. You got to solve it. You got to get all 3 across.
So if you bring the seed across, the seed gets eaten by the chicken when you go back and get the fox. That's the problem I have, right? Because if you leave the seed with the chicken's going to eat the seed.
I got it. No.
What is it?
No. Wait.
I thought you had it. Okay. Keep going.
I thought I did too.
You guys you're on the right path. You have all of the pieces.
Okay. So there's okay.
People are probably just yelling.
It's fine.
I thought I had it for a second.
I'm on vacation, man. I can't figure this out. I got part 1, Steve. You get part 2.
So could I put?
Yeah. Okay. I'll give you the hint. Taking the chicken over is the perfect first move. That's where you start solving.
Take the chicken over.
Mm-hmm.
Leave it on the shore. Take the fox over. Bring the chicken back in the boat with me, because it fits.
Mm-hmm.
Take the seed. Leave the chicken on the shore. Bring the seed over with the fox. Come over back by myself. Come get the chicken. Bring the chicken over.
I think that's it.
I think you got all the pieces correctly, but that is the premise of solving it.
Steve.
Well done.
Well done.
That took a lot of my brain.
That was great.
I'll read what you tried to articulate. You take the chicken over first. You go back and you bring the grain next. But instead of leaving the chicken with the grain, you come back with the chicken. You leave the chicken on the first side and you take the fox with you. You leave it on the other side with the grain. And then finally you go back over and you bring the chicken.
I just did it in a different
Well done, you guys.
A different way.
It was essentially you got the premise of solving it. Yes, well done.
Well, I think that was a perfect way to end the week. So we've got Canadians in Tampa tonight. We got Canadians in Tampa, I believe, on Sunday night as well. So we will have 2 Stanley Cup games and potentially a Stanley Cup to talk about as of Monday's show. Potentially. I told you, if they don't win game 2 and they really needed to.
Wait, when do you think game 4 is?
Isn't it Sunday?
Game 4
Game 4 is on Monday because for some reason Saturday and Sunday are gameless.
Why?
I don't know.
So we'd rather have a Monday night game?
Adam, we have already played our last Saturday game of the season. There are no scheduled Saturday games.
I don't understand this. Okay, well, I guess, what do they have to compete with? Afternoon baseball?
I don't know, but game 7 will be Sunday at 7 if we get there.
Wow. Okay. Well, Monday, I guess we will not have a Stanley Cup to talk about, but we will have a game 3. Thank God. Thank God we don't have to do 2 shows before then. So we'll talk about that then. Until then, have a fantastic weekend. I'll be back at the cottage on the next show, and I understand my sound is better. So that's great. Who knew? I only had to go several hours north of Toronto to get that.
Just stay there.
Yeah, maybe I should. I would like to. All right. So have a great weekend, and we will see you Monday.
The Steve Dangle Podcast. Follow the guys on Twitter at Steve_Dangle, at Adam WYLDE, and at Jesse Blake. Connection complete.